And a good Wednesday morning, Birds fans. Appreciate you streaming in here to Birds 365 with your Mac guys. Apologize for being a minute late. That's on me. It isn't that I was caught in traffic down by the sports complex in Philadelphia. Didn't even attempt to go down there last night, which I understand was a smart idea. Missed the game, a great Phillies game, enjoyed it at home, but didn't get anywhere near South Philadelphia. No, I was just reading up on another potential rule change in the National Football League and lost track of time. So we'll make up for it on the back end if Xander lets us stay an extra minute before the Philly Sports Power Hour. We'll make it up to you at the end of the show. Johnny Mac, no, you were a little busy today, but you two didn't have to go down to the sports complex where your coordinator interviews done virtually?
No, they're live.
Okay.
Coordinator Day is live, but you're clear enough for to avoid that mess. So I was able to avoid that. But I know a lot of guys who are covering the Phillies. I know a lot of guys who are covering the Flyers. And there was a soccer game as well. Yeah, I heard it was a mess as to be expected, but I think everybody's pretty happy after that Phillies performance, except maybe the Eagles.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. This week, I'd say it's a good thing because the Eagles lost their first game of the season, so slightly less attention because some people are paying more attention to the Phillies as they should after last night's ass kicking of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Good on the Phils, and yes, I did specifically put on a little red today to acknowledge the hometown baseball team heading Arizona up 2-0. But you did have work to do if you headed on over to South Philly to hear the coordinators. I watched both of the interviews after the fact, and I got a couple of questions on that. But first things first, did you get a chance to talk to the offensive coordinator before or after it leaked out that Julio Jones was going to be added to the Eagles wide receiver room?
Yeah, it was a surprise to me. My mic was dealing. Does it sound good now? I just checked it, settings.
You sound fine.
Good. All right. Yeah, I this one's a surprise to me. I thought, it feels a little dream teamish to me. It feels a little bit overreaction. We always joke about overreaction Mondays in the NFL. This was that's usually from fan bases around the country. This seemed like an overreaction by the Eagles to make this decision. Now I'm interested to get down there today, hopefully talk to Julio. How far was this in the pipeline? Was this in the pipeline? If this was in the pipeline, then I don't have as many issues. If this was a reaction to what happened against the Jets, I have more issues. But at the end of the day, I don't think it matters. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's low risk. So I don't know how upset you can get over it other than, yeah, I think it was an overreaction. My first impression before I get to talk to a bunch of people about it.
Here's why I don't think it's that much of an overreaction. If Quez was going to be out maybe one more week, then okay, fine. Do you really need to sign someone and use up some capital and a roster space and have to balance the roster, stuff like that? They put Quez on IR. So he's guaranteed to be out the next 3 weeks, correct?
Yeah, it's not about Quez or even Olamide Zaccheaus for me. It's about I've talked about this really dating back to the spring. Is there's only one football, and the third receiver on this team's not going to get a ton of traffic. Is Julio Jones at 34 going to be better than Quez Watkins or Olamide Zaccheaus? Yeah, probably. Is he the right fit? I don't know. I've heard so many different things. I wrote some of them down and because this is a Hall of Fame receiver, and this is no doubt about it, Hall of Fame receiver. He's got the big name, but again, he's not a Hall of Fame receiver right now. He's 34 years old. This is his fourth team in 4 years. Yada, yada, yada. He's not the same player. I've heard the Zach Pascal explanation. Well, maybe you can add that because he's got a big body. Understand, this guy was the playmaker for his career, his entire career. Um, People were blocking for him. He was the one getting the football, and others were the role players designed to block and get him space. Is he going to accept that kind of role? I don't know. And people assume just because he's got size, he's got tremendous size, obviously, that he can do it. Well, why can't Joseph Nada do it? Just get any 6'3", 225-pound guy. So that was one I got. I got another that he could maybe help Olamide Zaccheaus. What the hell is Aaron Moorhead doing here? That's not how it works. You already have A.J. Brown. You already have Devontae Smith. Why can't they help Olamide Zaccheaus? You're not bringing a coach in. You're bringing somebody to play. And then my favorite of all, because it's the biggest cliche, and this drives me nuts. Oh, you just take the best 53. And what I said, Julio Jones, even at 34, is a better receiver than Quez Watkins. He's a better receiver than Olamide Zaccheaus, which I agree with. Is he a better fit, though? I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe it isn't. But I'll explain it this way, because it gets conflated by the big name, because people get excited about the big name. The Eagles worked out Marquez Callaway and Desmond Patman before they signed Julio Jones. These are, Callaway caught a bunch of passes, not, 90 passes in New Orleans. So think of it this way. Is Marquez Callaway a better receiver than Britton Covey? Damn right he is.
Yep.
Is he a better fit? No, can't return punts. So the answer to that is no. Is Desmond Patman say better than Devin Allen as a receiver? Probably. Can he cover kicks like Devin Allen? I don't know. Maybe he can, but I know Devin's been really impressive, and that's why he's gotten on the team's radar. So it's not just about get the 5 best receivers you can get. Then you sign Jones and Callaway and Patman on the same day and say, oh, we got better. That's not how it works. I get very dream teamish vibes from this. I get very overreaction vibes to this.
And I texted this to you earlier yesterday. Did you get those same dream teamer vibes when they signed Ndamukong Suh last year?
I did. Sue a little bit. Joseph, no. I thought Joseph was needed at the time because they had lost Jordan Davis for 4 games at least. It might have been more, as you point out, with Quez Watkins. He's out for 4 games at least. It might be more. Same thing with Jordan. It turned out to only be 4 games. But you know what? He wasn't the same when he came back as well. And they lost Marlon Tuipulotu. So you had that ding-ding with your best run defenders. And they gave Marvin Wilson an opportunity in his hometown of Houston, and he didn't play well. And then they went out and got Linval Joseph. And I said, that makes some sense. But Sue, I was like, they don't need Sue. What? I got some dream teamish vibes. No, it didn't hurt. He was fine. He was a good dude.
That's the way I'm looking at this Julio Jones thing. I don't see the downside. Here's the only way there's a downside for me. And I think there's evidence to believe it's not going to happen. When Julio Jones last year signed with the Buccaneers, he knew he was hooking up with Tom Brady, wanted to play a season with Brady. Tampa was a legit Super Bowl contender going into last season, but he knew he was coming in as the 3rd wide receiver. This wasn't going to be Julio Jones, numero uno option for the quarterback on too many drop back plays. And he fit in fine as the 3rd wide receiver. As far as I can tell, maybe I'll shoot a text to my guy, J.C. Allen, and see if that's the case. Julio got it. He understood. He knew what his role was. He didn't rock the boat. He wasn't whispering in the QB's ear or going to the offense coordinator saying, how do I get to a game with only 1 target? No, he knew his role. He accepted his role. He played it. I guarantee you that's the same exact thing here. Howie Roseman is not signing this guy without getting a look in his eye and telling him, listen, you're coming in as our third wide receiver. We've got a third wide receiver who the coach flat out loves named Quez Watkins. And when he's healthy, you're not even going to be the third wide receiver. You're going to be fourth wide receiver.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think the ship has sailed on Quez from that standpoint. But I
The
will
threat that
say,
is Quez Watkins.
yeah,
You're telling me that Nick Sirianni's given up the ship on that one? The fact that just the threat of him stretching the field gets Devontae Smith and AJ Smith that much more wide open.
Well,
He's
I
done
mean,
with that.
I don't know. I love you. You get caught up on things. I mean, it's a legit point. He's making a legit coaching point. Now he's trying to elevate the player. The player had lost confidence last year. He did it all off season as well, but he's just not that good. That's part.
kind of what I've been saying all along, John.
Yeah, but you dismiss, then you turn off and you dismiss that he can run. And my whole point is, and Julio Jones, by the way, when he was young, I mean, that was the most impressive part of him. He could run like Quez Watkins, but he's 6'3", 220. Now, I don't think he can run like that anymore. So we'll see how much Julio has left. But look, you can't compare the two as receivers. One's going to the Hall of Fame and one's probably on his last gasp here in Philadelphia, and he'll get another opportunity somewhere next year. But my overriding point is, yeah, it's low risk. I mean, it's and everybody, if it doesn't work, everybody's going to forget about it. Nobody cares. And by the way, Julio's very close with AJ Brown. He's been teammates with Malamade. He's got a good relationship with Devontae Smith. Devontae had always talked about him. They were obviously years apart at Alabama, but those Alabama guys stick together. And he's always been sort of a role model for Devontae Smith, not from a playing perspective because he's a different type player. He's so much bigger. So he's got a relationship with almost the entire wide receiver room. I'm not even worried about the chemistry aspect. I'm not worried about him not accepting his role. I'm worried about the thought process of the team and overreacting to a one bad loss in the NFL. But typically, I always say it. The most and people get on me about it. Oh, you defend the Eagles. Well, they're good, so I say they're good. When they're bad, I rip them to high heaven, and people get mad at that.
Mm-hmm.
They to me, they overreacted to one bad loss, and I don't know if that's a good thing. It probably doesn't hurt. It probably doesn't help, to be honest, because again, the third receiver in this offense, they can't get the football to Dallas Goedert 1 week. 1 week they can't get the football to Devontae Smith. 1 week they can't get the football to AJ Brown. Now you got to throw Julio Jones in the mix, and the expectations outside the building more than inside the building. Or you got to get Julio involved, but you got to get DeAndre involved. There's still one football. They didn't add a football today. So that part of it doesn't make a ton of sense to me either, because, Olamide is just going to sit there. What can he say? Julio Jones, not that he's going to say anything, but the outside expectations change because of the big name trap. And then from the standpoint of, I still think they got way more issues on the other side of the football. Way more issues on the other side of the football. Specifically in the secondary. And they brought Josiah Scott back, which it probably took him too long. And I don't know, because Josiah was hurt. He was out in Pittsburgh and he was on the practice squad injury list. So maybe that complicated things. But if you want to go all the way back to training camp, you can't lose Goodrich. You can't lose. Yeah, you can, because they're going to lose Goodrich today, or at least, put them on waivers.
Maybe.
And Josiah Scott's back. Why wasn't Josiah here? Again, not a devastating decision, but they kept upside instead of a player more prepared to at least play in a competent fashion right away. So that was probably a bad decision. It just smacks of overreaction. Is the best way I can describe it.
All right. And it might if you and Nick Sirianni, but it sounds to me like at least you're changing your tune, which means I think you believe Nick Sirianni's changing his tune. You just said that. What happened to go from Quez Watkins is this legitimate part of the offense because of his speed that he can actually open things up for other guys, even if he's not the one who's getting the production because he's number 3. And what happened? Was this hamstring injury worse than we thought it was? Did a light go on? How did Quez Watkins go in Nick Sirianni's estimation, and in part your estimation, from a guy who actually fills a role with the Philadelphia Eagles, as large or as small as that role may be, to a non-factor?
Well, he got hurt. He got hurt. And he's gone for 4 weeks, and they brought in Julio Jones. You know, if they didn't bring in Julio Jones, he wouldn't be out of the equation. He would be back when he was healthy because he's better for this offense than Olamide Zaccheaus. He's a better fit for this offense than Olamide Zaccheaus. Now, did they build up the proper depth at receiver? That's another thing you could take a shot at Howie Roseman, because they do not have, forget about Quez Watkins and forget about Olamide. They don't have anybody behind those guys. You know, if you look around the league at practice squads, everybody's got 3-4 bodies on practice squads because that's a position you need bodies, because hamstrings pop up and, you know, soft tissue injuries pop up. And sometimes it's just about practicing more than anything else. You need bodies. That in secondary is a position you need a lot of bodies at. And if you think about who they have on their practice squad, Devin Allen, developmental project, who's closer to being an Olympic sprinter to an NFL wide receiver. Although, as I said, he's done a nice job on special teams, which is, give him credit for that. But as a receiver, you don't want him out there. Joseph Nada, he's not ready to play. You don't want him out there. Britton Covey, he's strictly a slot receiver, and let's be honest, he's not even that. Greg Ward, great leader, strictly a slot receiver. I mean, that's bad, Jody.
Right.
That's
so
bad.
That's why I don't understand why you're questioning Howie here and going, oh, this smacks of big name.
I'm questioning Howie. I'm questioning him for not having better developmental projects.
Right. So don't you then? Oh, better developmental guys. You're right. They didn't. They had a bunch of guys in camp. They didn't like any of them enough to keep them. At some point, you got to let the Devin Allen dream go. He's not some spring chicken. And he was here all last year, and now we're a year and change, and they refuse to put him out there as a wide receiver. At some point, you got to go, hey, it's not there. That's where I'm at. That's why I got no problems with a signing of a Julio Jones. My only worry about Julio is, and I'm telling you, it's this much, that he's going to come in and rock the boat. If he comes in,
I don't even worry about that.
If he's perfectly fine, then he's better than all the other options Eagles have. And yeah, this past week against the Jets, in which they scored 14 points, other than Smith and AJ, they didn't have anybody that any team would show any respect to in the wide receiver position. So, yeah, you got to react to that. I'd say good on Howie. I think this is a very good signing. And I'm not telling you, look for Julio to get 8 catches this week. Of course, that's not going to happen. He's going to come in. He's going to get some playing time. He'll get a couple of plays where he might be the third option in it. And if he doesn't rock the boat, I think this is a very good signing.
I think it's a fantasy football signing. I think it's uncharacteristic of the Eagles. Another thing I got was, now go get Leonard Fournette. Yeah, bring him in too. Why not? Why not?
They can't even get Rashad Penny off the bench. What the hell are you going to do with Leonard Fournette?
Well, people have already forgot about Rashad Penny.
That is a really fantasy statement. This is a signing of need, John. They don't have a signing of need.
It's a low
wide receiver room.
It's a low risk signing. So from that perspective, the only problem I have is the overreaction aspect to it. that's my problem. That to me, and you can look at it both ways. I can look at it in a positive glass as half full, that Howie knows this team's a Super Bowl contender. You got to seize the moment and do everything possible. Or you get one bad game. And again, everybody has bad games. San Francisco had a bad game the same exact day. Everybody has bad games in this league. They had a bad game last year and they wildly overreact, which I that to me is smacks of a little bit of desperation.
No.
Certainly not.
The reason why I'll cut him slack on that aspect is Quez got hurt. And right, wrong, or indifferent, and I say wrong, they believe that Quez brought something to the table. I don't think it was very much. Nick Sirianni at least verbally said it was. Whether he had an enlightening moment or the injury could be more than just 3 more weeks on top of this, they didn't need. This was, when they went out and got the 2 defensive tackles last year, was because they had a need, because Davis got hurt. So they had to react to, wasn't reacting to they lost. It was the reacting to a guy who was playing, getting injured.
That's why I'm interested. If Julio says this was in the pipeline, if we get to talk to him today, we got to get to our buddy Ed Kratz, but then I have less of a problem with it. If this was a direct reaction to what went on against the Jets, I got a problem with it. That's the best way I can describe it.
But again, the one thing you all know is Howie's the only one who can answer the question.
Well,
is it because
Julio
they lost or because Quez got hurt?
But Julio, and who knows, because he's from Alabama, so he gets the Nick Saban, I don't know the guy, so maybe he shuts down. But, if you ask him the right way, he'll probably say, we were talking since September or whenever. He knows. He might give it up. He might give it up. Hopefully he's not listening.
And to you think it's an important thing what he says. I don't care 1 iota. If they need an upgrade at wide receiver and Julio Jones is willing to ring chase here in Philadelphia, I'm glad to have him. It's an
the mercenary market is back.
It is, and the Eagles are benefiting from it, and good for Howie on the signing. Now, you're right. And I was going to get to Nada and Ward or whatever. Shame on Howie because he didn't have enough wide receivers.
By the way, Marcus,
before the signing yesterday. So I think it's more of a reaction to that than anything else. And that's on Howie, but it's better to react and correct the problem than just disregard it.
Well, that's true. That's true.
All right.
And Marquez Callaway, bring him in. He's only 25. He caught 47 passes for the Saints at one point. Bring him in too. Bring everybody in.
I'd rather bring in a guy who's...
And we're going to add a football. We're going to add 3 footballs.
There will be no more adding of footballs. Julio Jones will be Julio Jones. I'm going to look right into the camera. You can clip this one, Xander. Julio Jones will be better than Quez Watkins. End of conversation. All that matters. Julio Jones will bring more to the table than Quez Watkins ever did.
By the way, this is the 2nd-ranked offense in football. And Hall of Fame receivers better than Quez Watkins. We can agree on that.
Yeah, here's the problem, though. The best offense in football is coming to South Philly this week, which means the Eagles are going to have to score 31 points because the Dolphins are going to score
still
at least
30 others, and they were better than them. And, let's look at the secondary. Let's do something there.
Understood. But first things first, 1 week at a time, sports cliche, got to beat the Dolphins. Otherwise, it's a 2-game losing streak. So if you got to upgrade the offense this week, upgrade the offense. Doesn't mean you have to be mutually exclusive. Hello, Josiah Scott. But I got no problems with the Julio Jones signing. All right, coming back for more Birds Talk. Holy mackerel. Ed Kratz looking good. My God, he's well-dressed. He's drinking coffee. We'll show you a smiling face in just a second here on Birds 365.